Okay, it's that time of the show with my friend, movie critic, producer, Rocco Pasafumi, and we officially gave him the name, Around the Movie Block with the Rock.
Yes.
And we actually saw this movie together. And before I turn the microphone over to Rocco, I want to tell you what I did at the end of this movie, because I was so moved by this movie. We saw it at the Malvern Theater.
Yes.
And when the movie was over, I got up, like I'm not shy, you know me, I got up, and I said to all the moviegoers, we do a show,
Yes.
Rocco's my movie critic, and he's gonna do a movie review, and I gave him all my cards, so
Yes,
all the
of
people
course.
in the theater are gonna be anxiously waiting to
Of
hear
course, yeah.
Rocco's movie review.
Totally.
It's a very moving film.
Yes.
And without further ado, here's Rocco to talk about tremendous documentary movie.
Yes, this documentary in question is none other than, it's called Three Identical Strangers. It is directed by Tim Waterl. It takes place in 1980, where three adopted young men from New York, Robert Shafran, Edward Galland, and David Kellman, each discover each other and learn they were actually identical triplet brothers separated at birth. They become media darlings and celebrities for a time as they begin to discover the often dark and disturbing truth behind their adoption agency whose care they were placed in. Before we get into the actual story, which is a fantastic story, it is certainly one of the more mind-blowing subject matter to ever be turned into a documentary. The thing about most documentaries is that the problematic aspects of documentaries years ago, prior to people who revolutionized the format like Michael Moore, is that the documentary format was often static, filled with interviews with talking heads and clips and, but there's no real sense of movement in the storytelling. But what was great about this particular documentary, which really adds to the really already compelling nature of the story, is the fact that you have these interstitial reenactment scenes that really bridge the interviews and the clips together, which gives you really a sense of movement and really a sense that the story has an energy past the energy that's already been given by the sheer surreality of the story. It's an incredible story. I mean, anybody who knew of the story at the time, like Howie, this was something that got a lot of media attention at the time, particularly on Donahue. And they got cameo appearances on television, on Cheers, and also they had a cameo appearance, probably most famously, in Madonna's first big movie, Desperately Seeking Susan. And beyond that, I mean, I can't give away the real meat of this movie because that I feel like would ruin the surprise for everybody. I walked into this movie not really knowing much about these guys, and I was blown away. I probably was more blown away. I mean, Howie knew a lot of the celebrity of these guys, but in terms of the sheer plot twist that this movie has, it will blow you all away. I mean, just you can't wrap your head around the situation of these guys, and what happens is quite, it's shocking, it's heartbreaking, and you really have to see it to really know what I'm talking about. And but I think it's definitely one of the most interesting documentaries. I definitely think it has a lot of potential already to be up for the Best Documentary Feature Oscar. It's already won several awards at film festivals. It won the Audience Award at the Chicago Film Critics. It won the Special Jury Prize at Sundance. It won the Documentary Jury Award and the Audience Award at the Berkshire International Film Festival. So it's definitely a film that has to be seen. It's definitely one of the most interesting movies I've seen this past year. And, beyond the fact that you'll definitely be able to be rented soon on demand on video, CNN is one of the co-producers of this documentary, so it will be on their channel sometime early next year. So definitely check it out. I highly recommend you check this out. It will blow your mind on so many levels, and I think that you will definitely get a kick out of this movie in more ways than one. Is there anything else you want to add to this that may not give the plot away, of course?
Yeah, I mean, you know what? The movie has been circulated for quite a while, so
Yes.
I feel like, you know what, if you haven't seen it, you can see it down the road, but I think
Yes.
there's certain things that you didn't touch on that we absolutely have to talk about with this movie.
Go for it.
We've done a lot on this show in the past on mental health, and a big part of this story that has to be talked about is that all three boys who were given up for adoption at birth
Yes.
struggled with mental health. They all exhibited problems with temper,
Yes.
problems with other children, and it was a big problem for all three. Later on, they decided to go in business together, and they opened up a restaurant called Triplets.
Yes.
And at first it was going great, and then like a lot of businesses, they started to have issues. And then one of the brothers left the business. There was only two brothers left.
Yes.
And one of the big parts of the movie was the fact that one of the brothers, probably the most jovial of all,
Yes.
took his own life. He was only 33 years old at the time.
Yes.
And he had suffered through being manic depressive.
Yes.
And I feel like one of the reasons, or one of the things that contributed to him taking his own life is that Eddie was the brother that really loved the fact that the three of them were together, like a team. And when one of the brothers left, the three of them who were working together at the restaurant, he was personally devastated by that.
Yes.
And he really took it hard.
Yeah.
And he also suffered from a lot of mental health issues. And I think sadly, when he took his own life, it really affected the relationship of the surviving two brothers. And
Yeah.
it showed clearly throughout the documentary that they really weren't too close after that. But it really touches on, strong mental health issues. And
Absolutely.
and the other aspect is that there was a psychologist involved with the adoption agency, and he did a test on it was a research, and when the brothers found out about it, they were highly upset
Yes.
that they were basically guinea pigs, and they showed early in the film when they were like 4 and 5 years old, a man would come to this house with
Yeah.
a clipboard
Right.
and ask them all kinds of questions. And, they all had that in common. And
Yeah.
they actually interviewed a couple of those researchers in the film.
Right.
And, one guy, he kind of was like, turned you off. He was like smiling, saying, I would go to one house, and then I'd go to another house 100 miles away and see another little boy who looked exactly alike, and they exhibited some of the other problems. So
He's very casual and nonchalant about
yeah,
it.
so I just think normally I don't get involved in Rocco's
Yeah.
reviews, but
this was worth adding.
I just felt that
Yeah.
the mental health aspect of it
Right.
was so deep and so profound,
Yes.
especially with one of the three taking his own life. It had to be talked about.
We were the both of us were boulderized by this movie and what we learned from this. I think that the thing that I thought made this movie more compelling than anything else is the fact that it really presents the idea of what factors into a person's development, whether it's nature or nurture. It really blows your mind as to how both factors can contribute to your development, like the whole mental health thing. And that's something that nobody could have foreseen, and the fact that they were each affected by that kind of predestined to have that. That blew my mind, because I always thought that, and probably most people would think that nurturing and how your parents raise you is what shapes you. So in totality, you have to see this in terms of it really teaches you about how both aspects are equally important. So as far as the film goes, I would highly recommend it, and I give 3 Identical Strangers 4 out of 5 stars. So thank you.
I give it 5. No, it was awesome. And I
Yes.
do think, let's continue on this discussion. I
Yes.
think that this movie is going to win some Academy Awards.
Oh, totally.
I think it was
It's a very good chance.
so compelling.
Yes.
It was really
Yes.
so deep. It talked about so many issues.
And the way it was made adds to that.
Yeah, I mean, it was like like they showed some of the scenes like when the brothers first met each other.
Yeah.
You know.
They showed like reenactments.
Yeah,
that
they
make
reenacted.
It made it feel like you were watching like a fictional movie.
Yeah, and it was really, really fascinating.
Yeah.
The story and
Yeah.
and the beginning is so compelling.
Right.
I mean, it was really another thing they brought out,
Yes.
which really makes this fascinating.
Right.
It was only through a miraculous coincidence
Yes.
that this story even took place. Because what happened was, one of the brothers went to college.
Right.
At a small, like a junior college.
Yeah.
So he left the school,
Right.
and coincidentally, his identical twin went to the same school the next semester.
Yeah.
And everybody was coming up to him. Like one person came up to him and said, "You owe me money." Never saw the person. And all these people, total strangers, were coming up to him until finally this one person came up
Right.
to him and said, "You know what? Your identical twin was here last semester.
Yes.
Let's get in the car and drive to see him right now. But first, I want to put you on the phone to him." And they compared notes. They was born the same day, same hospital, same agency. So they got in the car,
Yeah.
and they were in such a rush to see each other
Right.
that they got a speeding ticket.
Yeah.
And they told the cop why they were speeding. Cop didn't buy it. But it was
Right.
so, I mean, think about that coincidence of all the schools in America. One goes to the school, the other one goes to the same identical school.
What are the odds? Right?
What are the odds? And then the third one found out because then it was all over the news. He said,
We're just the twins.
I'm the third one. So it was just an incredible, compelling,
Yes.
amazing
Yeah.
story. And trust
Absolutely.
me, this is going to win
Yes.
all the awards.
Yes, definitely. This will make
when
a big
it comes
impression.
to documentary,
This was great.
It was unbelievable.
This was a standout.
So riveting. So.
Yes.
Rocco, I think you and I.
Yeah,
I don't think we ever saw a documentary.
Yeah,
that
we were
touched
blown
us
by this.
like this one.
Yes, we enjoyed ourselves very much with this.
Absolutely. So, Rock, I'm with you. 4 out of 5 stars.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.